welcome to this everyday resilient legend, the beautiful, the strong Miss World, Annie Hewitt, who is here to share her story today about how to live with clinical depression. Now, Annie is an elite athlete, having won not only one, but 3 prestigious world titles in natural bodybuilding, including Miss World and Miss Australia. And Annie is not only an elite fitness coach and body worker who trains high-level athletes, but she is also a highly sought-after motivational speaker and award-winning television producer as well. Now, Annie's also the founder of the Timber Gym, which is just like an evolved kind of playground for grown-ups, where she educates adults how to get trim and toned, but also have their ideal body so that they can move better throughout their lives. Now, like me, Annie uses a holistic, unique approach to health care and also prevention. So she is a wealth of knowledge in this space. And for those of you who don't know, clinical depression is actually also known as major depression. And the stats for depression at the moment are crazy. It's something ridiculous. Like, we know that depression is the #1 leading cause of illness and disability worldwide. But in the last couple of years in Australia, we've seen these, horrific disasters. I know you've seen it too, Annie, with, bushfires and droughts and floods, and now this, whole COVID pandemic scenario, which, we've gone through this crazy sort of stuff. And unfortunately, prior research is predicting that we'll have approximately, 33% increase in our population experiencing high levels of psychological distress. Now, that's crazy. And the unfortunate thing as well is we know that people with pre-existing mood disorders, such as, depression or anxiety, are more likely to have this increase in significant, anxiety and distress levels during this time. So, Annie, your story about clinical and chronic depression is so relevant at these times. So, we would love to hear your story of how you've managed, 30 years of depression and how that's helped shape the person that you are today. So would you like to share with us a little bit about your story?
Sure, I'd love to, Case. And hopefully by sharing my story, it inspires, someone else now to, keep going and move forward, because, you can turn tragedy into triumph, and, and I'm a testament to that. So, having lived with it for that long, and not just, and it's not like that I've won over the battle all the time, Casey, either, as you would well know. It's a constant drive, and to do what I've done, I was driven by something, and like I said, something was taken from me, but something was also gifted to me, Casey, and that was the gift of movement. And finding movement and discovering training and bodybuilding for what happened to be my chosen sport became not only a motivation, but it became a source of medication for me, and as well as a multitude of other things, obviously, along the way. But this one has stayed with me. It's a high that no drug could ever give me the same endorphin release and rush and ongoing benefit that movement has given me, Casey. And believe me, I've tried it all, tried everything, but I keep coming back to that same same stay in my life, and that is movement. So I can't sort of stress strongly enough about how movement has changed my life, like I said, rehabilitated my life, and gifted me so much that, from what was taken from me as a child, and having found movement has discovered, and gifting it on to others, and seeing how their lives can, I hate the word transform, but it has transformation, because just there's a physiological change that happens, Case, with movement. When movement happens, there's just endorphins that are released. It's scientific. That's a science behind the theory. It's the how do I get myself off the floor when I'm falling apart, and to getting that movement. And for me, it was always just about thinking and knowing, and probably it's been, I don't know, that many times in 30 years that it's not provided the support that I've needed. So I know the benefit, and just keep always having the faith of the movement of whatever movement I could do will benefit me and gift me in ways that are tenfold to anything else. So yeah, I think just movement, Case, has been and that it's just been a stayer in my life. And yeah,
I know from personal experience, just as much as you do, that sometimes when you're in that depressed state, the last thing that you want to do or feel like doing, is getting up out of bed or getting up or wherever you find yourself at that state. You have the CBFs, and you're also, it's like, it feels like you're trapped and unable to even move. How did you even go through that stage of getting to the movement stage?
I had a dream. I guess I had a dream, and for 6 years that dream just was in my head, and so for me, it gave me purpose as well. And I think it's about finding purpose with it as well. Case, do you know what I mean? And that's where the competition side of things came in, and was extremely beneficial in providing a platform of structure for me, of training times and diet, and everything had structure. I fell apart when I didn't have the structure after competition, when I didn't have a format, Case, that's when I hit the wall, and that's when I've had my major breakdowns in life. Were also the common denominator, not having a structure and not having a purpose or reason to do it. So I would find some sort of purpose, like that's going to, because that's self-motivation. I know that crippling feeling of being curled up in a ball, unstoppable with the SADs, and it's that knowing, and like I said, just have some sort of even if it's someone else's inspiration, but try and borrow something that will give you a purpose for doing it. Do you know what I mean? A benefit that and have faith in. And remember, only you can do this. You have to want to change, or and you will continue to be a victim. There's an element of you where that separates, it separates people. It's how much do you want it? How hungry are you? Are you ready for the change? Because you have to do that. It doesn't matter, I can scream and shout or whatever. Not that I'm not that sort of purpose trainer, but really, you've got to want that change. You've got to want it. You've got to be hungry for it. You've got to be so fed up with it that it's just.
I couldn't agree more. Is, I work with my clients as well on this front, and I've literally turned away about 10 clients recently who weren't ready to help themselves and to actually implement the coping strategies and the skills around things. And I'd love to support people like that, but until they're ready to really create the change within themselves and make that decision to their commitment to themselves, and also take responsibility of what's going on.
Oh, take responsibility, absolutely. No. And Casey, you could affirm when is that point, Casey? When is that point where people go, enough is enough? Where is that point? Totally. When you hit rock bottom. When you've hit rock bottom, you've got to go to the low point. Yeah. Otherwise, you won't. There's no point. What do you need to change?
Yeah, when the pain becomes too strong to handle, it's there's this level of like, oh, I can deal with that pain, I can deal with that pain, I can deal with that pain. When that pain threshold is like, this is too much, that's when something has to shift. And that's typically
it's sliding doors though, Casey. You can go one way or the other, and we all know what the other door leads to. It's a choice, and that's why, coming back to healthy, it's so cliche about healthy mind, healthy body, but it's so true. It's like I call it the mind gymnasium, and it's really being mindful and really going through and training those thoughts. And when you have those thoughts that they're not the good thoughts. They're not the happy, joy, rainbow thoughts. You've really got to start, it's training the mind as well. So when it comes back to your question of, well, where do you dig from? Like, how do you dig deep? It's training. When you can't move physically, train your mind. You've got to start training the mind and start, cleaning up, basically defragging. We clean our cars and defrag our computers all the time. Do we defrag our minds with those thoughts that just aren't, you know what I mean? It's a bit of time for a bit of defrag.
I talk about that analogy all the time with my clients about how we can, basically throw our negative thought patterns and those things into the trash bin, and really reprogram our mind by rewiring it in the same way that we would literally defrag our computer. I love that analogy because I use it all the time. Because our subconscious mind is like our storage system. It remembers everything. Our conscious mind is worth like 2 to 3% of what's actually going on with our behavior patterns and things like that. And our subconscious mind is responsible for anywhere between 95 to 98% of our behaviors and patterns and decisions. So that's happening subconsciously. Our subconscious mind is like, our programming that happens on our computers. That all this stuff is happening in the background. It's all making our computer work. We don't see it, but it's making it all work. And our subconscious mind does the same thing. So, if we're not aware of those negative thought patterns and getting rid of that junk, it will take over eventually. So I loved that you used that analogy. And
well, of course, the other thing is, that helps clean that or defrag that is putting in the right stuff. The one thing that I often talk about when I do speaking, and it's just a couple of little tips, and it's water, like water wisdom. I call it water wisdom. And the breath, like he who only half breathes, only half lives. It's an old ancient proverb, but and I know again these are cliche, but it's so true. Like, dehydration is the number one stressor of all living matter. Case, did you know that?
I did know that, and we don't drink enough. Like, I'm talking about society generally. It blows my mind about how little water everybody drinks. It's crazy. Like, I will have 2 to 3 liters a day, and if I don't, I know instantly I'll get a headache and I start to feel tired. I can go without food, but without water, not good.
Correct. And as I would training my executives, and they'd be the same, like in and out of planes, used to be in and out of planes all the time. And Annie, but I don't know how much I've drunk. It's like, get a bottle of that Mount Franklin or whatever, water bottle, and it's got, the 1.5 litre. Mark off the hours of the day, all right? So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Have 2 bottles, so one for the day and one for the evening, and try and get through that. I like to set 3 litres for myself, but I live in a warmer climate and things like that. But that's my sort of minimum because I know when I'm not hydrated, I just am foggier.
Yeah.
And I just don't make my decisions, just aren't quite as, and I'm just coming back to some basics. Like, well, how do I make that decision, get up off the floor and actually move? I can do things like be hydrated. Just honestly, it is such a game changer in clarity of thoughts. So, if you're having those foggy times, it's like, what do I draw from? Let's just start drinking some bloody water.
Totally. I couldn't agree more. And there's this, obviously what we fuel our body with. Now, going to the level that you've gone, being a world champion, Miss World, which is an incredible achievement, by the way. I think that's amazing. Now, you would have not only had to manage your thoughts, but the fuel going in. So, fueling your brain, fueling your body, and with water and nutrients. Have you got any coping skills around that sort of thing, how to fuel your body best?
Eat for what you're about to do, not for what you have done. Does that make sense?
I love that. Yes. Yep. Proactive.
I've been and I hear it's the buzzword now, intermittent fasting. I hear it all the time. I've been intermittent fasting for 30 years since I first competed. I found intermittent fasting because, look, let me tell you, bodybuilding competition is not healthy. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for a woman to get down to 4 or 5% body fat. That is not healthy, Casey. But it's only for this much out of your life. It's a really refined and it's quite a structured sort of timeline of where you're going to. So, but outside of that, I like to stay leaner. Again, it's because of performance level of life. You know, I don't want life to be a chore. The more weight I carry, the more sort of a chore life becomes. And I know that that's an issue right now. That is current right now with restrictions on movement and being able to go out and about. But again, look, you know, Case, I wanted to bring into this, you know, the background here, and it's not just a prop, it's actually in my life, and you know that they're in my life every single day. Now, if we don't have access to a tree branch or a beam at home, and just about every home in Australia has a pergola, let me tell you, with a beam or something that they can hang off. Yeah. You have access. I know even in Melbourne now, you have access to, you know, to a park and a tree branch, and lifting our own body weight. Honestly, Casey, it is just, if every single body in Australia could lift their own, if every single person in Australia could lift their own body weight, obesity would not be a problem. And I know this isn't the talk about obesity. We're not talking about obesity. I'm just getting back to the whole movement. We don't need a gym. You don't need a gym. There's so much information out there now. You know, something as simple as a set of rings at any fitness level, at any age, and no matter how broken you are, they are just, you know, they're just your number one sort of light as. Take them anywhere, put them in your backpack, go to the park, whatever, just start moving. There's so much information out there on the tube and all that sort of, you know, it's everywhere for everyone to. Again, it comes down to that: how much do you want it? How much do you want it? You know, and to me, the faster.
Sorry, I was just saying, there's an element too of understanding what happens physiologically when you move. And you mentioned it before about the release of endorphins, and I talk about this in my book a little bit, where, you know, and it's called the Daily Dose Day Book, and the dose being the 4 happy brain chemicals. So the dose stands for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And so what happens in your body when you move is not only do endorphins get released, but dopamine gets released. And, you know, when you're fueling your body, like you were talking about with water and organic nutrients and healthy food, it also, you know, our gut is our main producer of serotonin, you know, in our gut. So, you know, we're physiologically, just by moving, and it doesn't even need to be this huge movement to start with, it can be like these little snippets of movement, we're changing our structure of our hormones and everything that's, you know, all the chemicals that are getting released in our body.
And so what happens with that, Case, is we make better decisions.
Yeah.
So when you ask me what to put into your mouth, it's like, well, if movement, you know, movement for me is the number one, because when you move and you're feeling, it's like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I actually feel all right. You're going to make better choices what goes in your mouth. You are just, that is the only thing that we only truly have. And this is epidemic is a testament to that also. There's only truly 2 things that we can control: what goes into our mouth and what comes out. That's it. That's the only thing that you truly have control over, is what you put into your mouth. And when you start feeling, you know, just that little bit lighter about life and, you know, a little bit more buzzy, you will always make a better decision to put what's put into your mouth. Always.
I love that. What goes in and what goes out is really in our control, and especially during, you know, times of uncertainty. And at the moment where there's
no one force feeds you. That's right. No one force feeds us anymore. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. And there's so
you
many.
Have choice. Comes back to choice.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. Spot on. It comes back to choice. And
I am passionate about that, Case. I'm really passionate about, you know, like you said, taking responsibility, because there's a lot of help out there. There's so much help out there, but, you know, we need to initiate it. And that movement, the breathing, the water, they're just little primers for us to feel better here. We can't change what's happened in the past, you know, and nor do we in some ways want to. Look, if what hadn't happened to me I would not be the person I am today. And that is, I would not have the empathy and I would not have the compassion to ask someone that's sitting, you know, alone in the gutter or is homeless, like, what happened in your life for you to end up here? That's, you know, what's happened to me has given me empathy to know you didn't make that choice. Something's happened, you know. Yeah. So I sort of take it upon myself to really ask the question, I guess, of someone else, and never to be judgmental, because I know I also could go through sliding doors at any time. I could drop the ball. It's being vigilant all the time, Casey, and that's why the movement is a huge part of life. Even in my 50s now, it's probably even more so, but in a different way. in a much different way. It's nowhere. It's not. I'm not at competition level. I'm actually rehabbing, my body. I'm now paying the price for 30 years of just insane seeking approving. It's got me nowhere. So I did it to the nth and did it to the extreme, but I'm paying the price for that now. So it's time for me, Casey, to be kind to myself and be gentler. And still, movement is a massive part of it, but it's a gentler move, and I'm being kinder to myself now, and at a different phase of life.
And so for the people who are listening who are potentially, maybe potentially older people who don't have a daily practice of movement, or people who are my age or younger, or, even in high school, who don't have a movement practice and potentially are in a spot of struggle, do you have any suggestions or coping skills of what's the best way to, start the process of movement and exercise just to get the ball rolling?
Here's one that I start with the mature people around the place. It's called the 5 Tibetan rites.
Ooh.
Okay, so you might want to write this down. The 5 Tibetan rites have been around for thousands of years, and created by the Chinese, of course. And yeah, I'll get you to have a look at those, and you can put them in the show notes afterwards. But a lot of all our movements come off these 5 Tibetan rites. There's a spin, and there's a back movement and a forward movement, and they are just the 5 Tibetan rites that I would start practicing with. They're online everywhere, and just sort of work at your own pace. And it's nothing like a boot camp. It's nothing like that. It's just a very simple practice that I think the viewers would make wonderful. And it's about creating a ritual, isn't it? It's about creating a daily ritual. I think that's what you're asking me. Is like, well, let's start with something that's been done by the Chinese people for thousands of years, and it is those 5 Tibetan rites. And I think that's a really nice place to start for any, like I said, any level at any place. It's just that little ritual, and again, just it's actually getting that benefit and enjoying that benefit, and go, you know what, that wasn't so bad. I'm going to do it again tomorrow, and I might even add another minute or two to it. You've got to enjoy that experience, and once you enjoy that and feel the benefit of it, success begets success, doesn't it, Casey? First of all, you feel better, and then you sort of have more energy, and then and it goes on from then. And then you might even look better afterwards and really enjoy that as well, and keep the practice on. But it's just creating that little ritual, and maybe the 5 Tibetan rites might be a nice place to start for someone.
I love that. I haven't actually heard of that, so I have to look into that. But what I love that you suggested is creating a ritual around something that you actually like doing. So many of my clients are like, oh my gosh, I hate the gym. I'm like, you don't have to go to the gym. Just go for a walk outside. I talk about a coping skill called chunk it, which I'll talk about later in the show. But it's just breaking it down. If it's so big for you to think about, I'm going to go for a run or a walk, out of the house, just break that down. Well, I'm going to go for a walk in the house, and then I'm going to go for a walk, outside, and then to the oval, and then make those sort of leaps each day. But like you said, creating a ritual around something that you actually enjoy, so it doesn't feel like a chore.
Well, that's why I created, I guess you brought it up, when we were speaking prior to the show, Casey, and that was about the block training kit, or the Built for Life kit that I created, just with simply a fit ball. It was just like, okay, how do I, and I called it basic steps. It's stepping off. How does that someone take their first basic steps? So I've actually created something on my website, Casey, that's exactly that. It's for people taking their first steps back into movement, or post-pregnancy or depression or whatever it is. And it's for everyone, but it's at that, how do I take this safely and actually have a bit of fun? Because if it's not fun, I'm not interested. As a self-proclaimed minister of fun, Casey, I definitely made it fun as well. So that's even something if people wanted to draw from, and that's just using a fit ball and body weight.
Yeah,
and it's honestly, I could train for my 4th world title with a fit ball, Casey. What's not doable on a fit ball isn't worth doing. So that's another sort of tip for, okay, if I wanted to do something a little bit more active. And even those, so many people working at home. Actually, here's my number one tip probably for people home-based at the moment, and or sitting in this kyphotic position. And what's happening when we're sitting is we're closed off. The airway, airways are closed off, and we're trying to struggle to, oh, we've got another Zoom meeting. A fitball, sitting on the fitball. So I've actually got one under my outdoor desk right here. And it's about I'm going to have to get it out now and show everyone, because here it is. I'm not lying.
We know you're not lying.
Here's my fitball. Here's my fitball, right? It's even got a nice little pretty cover on it, fur cover. And it's just practicing. So exactly getting on that fit. So, changing the way you work, we don't want to change that. That's how you work now, and that's fantastic. But we can change the effects it has on you. So for those that are stuck and working and feeling those feelings and can't get outside for whatever reason, the fitball becomes something you can just constantly move. Because when we're sitting on a chair, case we're static, we're just static. The fitball allows movement, and that therefore circulation, and therefore what are we talking about? Again, we're already getting that sort of nice little slipstream of endorphins just by sitting on the fitball whilst at work, and keeping that movement ongoing. So I am really passionate about, as you can see, sort of about movement and how to bring it in on an everyday level without, like you said, needing a gym, or people are programmed now that I've got to do this. It can be so simple, and the fitball is another one of my number one tools that everyone can use.
I love that, because it then becomes a part of your lifestyle rather than this kind of separate thing.
Absolutely.
And it's just a part of your daily practice, and it's creating that ritual around it. And I absolutely love that. Now, any people who are going through sort of depression or potentially, like you said, needing to just get back into exercise and movement, have you got any sort of tips in hindsight or advice that you would give to anyone?
About keeping the movement going,
I know that we spoke before about the human rules, the rules of being human.
Yes.
And potentially that might be some kind of advice that you could give somebody who's going through.
That's right, Case. Look, I've just sort of found it in my diary, and it's something I keep with me every year, and I'd like to share it with everyone, if you don't mind. And it's just, it's the rules for being human. It was actually a psychologist that shared this with me many years ago as I was going through some therapy, and I've used it ever since. So hopefully your listeners might get something. So, rules for being human. Number one, you will receive a body. You may like it or hate it, but it's yours for the entire period of time that you are here. Number two, you will learn lessons. You are now enrolled in the full-time informal school called life. Each day will give you opportunities to learn lessons. You may like the lessons you have to learn, or you may believe that your lessons don't really fit you and they're stupid. Number three, you will make no mistakes. Rather, you will learn through your lessons. You will experiment and do trial and error learning. Some, if not much, of what you do will end in failure. This is part of the process called life. Number four, your lessons will repeat themselves until you learn them. Each lesson you are to learn will be presented to you, or will present itself in various forms until you learn it. I think we've all heard that before, Case. Number five, as long as you are alive, you will have lessons to learn. Number six, I love this. It took me a long time to learn this one. There is no better than here. There is no geographical cure. If you move, your there will become your here, and you'll have to look for a new place to go.
I love
Number seven. Yeah, isn't that is so.
Yeah.
Number seven. What you love or hate in another person often is a mirror of you. And again, I think we've heard that reflection all the time, hey? When you love or hate something about another person, it reflects something you love or hate about yourself. It is that exactly as it says. Case number 8. What you make of your life is up to you. You have tools and resources, skills and information. How you use them depends on the choices you make. Remember, the choice is yours to succeed, fight, or give up. I think it's just pretty much wraps up what we've just been talking about. Number 9, your answers to life's questions lie inside you. look, listen, trust your own internal self and intuition to tell them to you. In other words, we have got all the answers inside. We just have to just be quiet sometimes, Case. Really just and get into this cliche again at the moment, but flow state. And it's just I'm practicing this. I'll just finish the 10th one and I'll come back with flow state in a sec. You probably will forget these rules as you live life. You can come back to these rules whenever you need to or want to do so. Remember, it can be done.
Oh my gosh, Annie.
I am practicing a lot more about flow state, Casey, as you can imagine by my body. Oh,
rules.
Push. I'm sick of pushing, and I just want to get into a flow state and be accepting of that as well, whatever happens. And I am meant to be where I'm meant to be, and just letting be. And it's really working for me, actually. It's really working for me, mate. Just letting go and not pushing so much. And I think the more I'm practicing it and the more I'm kind of like, oh God, that worked. And I'm trying a little bit more, and I'm trusting in the process a lot more. And yeah, that would be something I definitely pass on as well. I'm just trying to relax a bit more with it all.
Totally. And it's so funny that you say that. It's spring equinox today, and one of the things that I'm trying to call in, cultivate with the whole East being new beginnings and letting things go. And one of the things that came up for me in my vision quest recently was the need for me to create space to have silence so that I can be in flow. And I love that you just say that, because so often we're busy being busy. We're constantly doing instead of just being and creating a space for silence,
A human doing instead of a human being. What are you, a human doing or a human being?
I love that. I love that so much. So, Annie, thank you so much for your beautiful insights. I absolutely love those 10 rules, and I would love to put those in the show notes, because I think it is incredible little, it's such a snippet of the things that are literally what we've just been talking about, mirror imaging of things, and also taking responsibility and those choices that we spoke about. So I think, I love that so much. Now, Annie, how will people get in touch with you if they want to reach out?
Case, contact me via the Annie Hewitt website, annie@anniehewitt.com, email there.
Great. I'll put those in the show notes, and anyone who wants to get in touch with Annie, please do. She is an amazing trainer, a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much for your time today, Annie.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Casey, and good luck with you. Are just such a champion yourself, mate, and we just honour you and respect, and just love your work, darling. Love your work, and thank you for being out there, and especially in this time of need. So
beautiful.
Rise and shine, little legend. Rise and shine.